All right, we have jumped back on the Kronos Group Podcast, and we actually have a special guest with us this week. It's actually my brother, Jerry's other nephew. Jacob, you want to say a few words?
What's up, y'all? I'm Jacob. I'm the best nephew that he has, clearly, as he can testify. And yeah, it's great to be on this podcast.
How do you feel about that, Jerry?
Look, I already said how I feel about it, so I'm not, before the podcast started. I was not consulted on this. Somebody let the dude in. I'm waiting for, I haven't seen Steve blink yet, so I think he's trying to get out of this. And Steve, if you are, we're here for you. If you don't want the kid around you.
The thing is I got to feed him afterwards. That's the problem. Nothing's free.
Yeah, you come visit and you get fed. So, hey, we'll take that, right?
I would say going into the podcast for 2026 and putting together clips and getting podcasts booked for the 365 podcasts that we're going to do. And I started to feel the after hours this week and literally getting on my computer, going through edits, putting podcasts together, putting clips together, putting a blog post together, then an email newsletter, and then sharing that back with the guest, and then working with Jerry on all the back end stuff to start building out this machine. And it's been a incredible amount of work, and not even been a full week yet. So I'm excited, but at the same time, this is the same level of engagement that I need to keep consistently throughout the rest of this year in order to make this thing happen.
We need to show, Matt, just my week. That's my calendar for this week just for podcasts. So if we're going to get on 365, that means I got to go do one a day at least. So that means I got to have, some days I got to do 2, 3, or 4. I did, what I do 3 or 4 the other day, yesterday or the day before?
Yeah, Tuesday there was 3,
yeah.
And then we'll have 2 or 3 on tomorrow, and then 2 on Monday, 1 on Tuesday, 1 on Thursday, 1 on Friday, 2 back on the next Monday, and it's just going to keep going.
Oh.
And we keep getting submissions literally every day, which I'm very grateful for and happy, because I'm like, hey, that's more and more podcasts, more and more guests, more and more spreading the awareness of the Kronos Group and having conversations with business owners, which is the ultimate reason for this podcast.
Yeah, and it's, man, these conversations are getting good too. I always go back to my first podcast where I asked that MMA fighter a question and dude said no. That's my first question. That was a long time ago, but 200, coming up on 300 of these things. And that doesn't count the, I don't know, other 100 I must have been on.
That's what I'm saying. And so many people will be like, well, where do you start? Like, how do you get from here to here? Or they see the overnight success in their eyes because they might just see one of the end results of one of the podcasts from the last few weeks and think to themselves, man, this guy sounds really good. He knows what he's talking about. He has good conversations with people. How did you get here? Well, it's because you've done it so many times, and not every podcast was amazing. It was like, hey, I have to show up. I had a long day at work, and now I got to do this, and I got to be enthusiastic about this just as much as I do every other podcast moving forward.
I was telling my family yesterday, I had all 3 of my podcasts that I was on yesterday. One I went on, 2 people came on mine. It was fantastic. It was just such good conversations. And it's funny because I've done this 100 times or hundreds of times, and I come into it, and every time I think, man, this conversation is going to suck. That's what I think going into it. This is going to suck. These guys, really, I had a private equity guy on yesterday. I had an international speaker that's, knows everybody and has been around the world. And, I'm talking to these people. I'm going on this pastor's podcast yesterday. Had a great conversation with him. But there's always this I don't know, say reluctance or like, this is going to suck and what am I doing? And then I click it on. And I just start talking to some dude, and like I always tell them, the makeup of the podcast is I have questions, and rarely, if I have 5 questions, rarely do I ask 2 of them. So it's always introduce yourselves, tell everybody what you're about, right? Kind of that question we all ask. And I always say I got to ask, the first stupid question, which is, I know what you're doing now. Tell us how you got here. And then from that, rarely do I have time to get to my questions because the conversation just takes off from there. So when 2 people have experience and they can go back and forth, I think it makes for a good conversation. But to your point, Matt, about doing it, there is a reluctance to do it because you think to yourself, what am I going to say? You know, how do I fill the time? Particularly if someone can't talk. Matt can tell you about the labor I put into a 1 hour podcast with a guest who is boring or doesn't talk enough is like filling 3 hours. And I had a podcast a couple of weeks ago where I was texting Matt in the middle of it saying, for the love of God, man, I'm not going to make it through this. Mm-hmm. It's just, the day is it's just taking forever. And then poor Matt had to listen to it and try to edit it and fell asleep doing it. And ultimately you're like, I just can't put that out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it's an hour gone and an hour of Matt's time gone. It's gone because you're like, you can't do it. But so you want to try to filter out your guests to some extent. We hate to do it, but you got to have guests jump through a few hoops. I want to see a video of you talking. I don't want to be the first person you come on, and because I had that in my first guest video when I asked a guy a question and he said no. And you want to look for guests, or if you're a guest, you want to be able to come on and talk. So you not only want to talk, you want to be able to tell stories and entertain and get people to listen to you and inspire and motivate and people to understand where you come from. I mean, if I came on podcasts or to people listening that want to run a podcast, if I come on a podcast and just talk about how rich I was and all the things I did, and nobody can understand that, there's no community, there's no connection. You don't want to do that. So you got to be able to tell all the ugly stuff, and ultimately then they understand what you went on to do. So you want to be entertaining at the same time. Well, if somebody comes on and they're not entertaining, man, that's where 300 podcasts come in handy, because an hour can take for freaking ever. I could literally, this is why we keep saying, and I'm saying it in public, and Matt and I talk about this, where we're putting it out there. We're doing podcasts about what we're trying to do, 365 podcasts in a year. Matt's going to turn out 1,000 pieces just for the Kronos Group, 1,000 pieces of content. We're not going to go without a fight, and at that level, it takes a bunch of work. But having said that, there's no way that we know how to do it. I can certainly format 1,000 pieces of content a year. I could walk into one of those places and unannounced do a half an hour on whatever it is that a point I want to get across and get people to listen to me and be inspired by it. So there's no excuse to do it, because if those guys can do it, and this is a way that you got to look out to, I'll go off into business a little bit. I was talking to a young guy yesterday out of London, England. He has a podcast, and him and his boys are trying to figure out what to do after they've gone to university. And so I was giving out all of this advice, and this is one of the ways is you got to be self-accounting. You got to be looking inside yourself of what are you capable of. So you watch dudes get up on a stage like we had to, and you're like, who in the hell? That's the worst thing ever. And then you see them sell 4 or 5 of them, of the $1,000 thing that they're selling, or the $2,000 thing that you're selling. And you're like, I wouldn't buy. I mean, the dude's shoes didn't match, and he had 2 different color socks on, and I don't even think his shirt was buttoned up straight. And the 2 of them were partnering on this conversation at this business expo. They were there twice. They're paying like $4,500 for the room. They get a half an hour to give their speech to get you to buy something from them. And it was the most uninspiring thing I had ever seen. And so you walk out of that, and if you're us, I walked to that, and I'm like, I got no excuse. If those people can do it, if they can make money doing what we're trying to do here, then we have no excuse. And I think that's how you got to hold yourself accountable. And you got, it's easy to make excuses. I don't know how to social media. I don't know how to get my ads out. I don't know how to communicate. I don't know how to edit. I don't know how to turn out content. It looks like all of the reasons. And that's why I have people come on the podcast like the dude yesterday, Danny, who is an international speaker. And dude was dropping, I mean, Maddie, you listened to it. Dude was dropping bombs about how to just communicate your story. He's friends with Donald Miller, who lives down here. And so you get to talk to these people with all of this experience, and they tell you, how do you get started? And one of the things that we talked about, like giving speeches, was I was bitching about how I just put it out there. I talk about it. Maybe I looked up one thing online, and all of a sudden my Facebook feed is just full of people trying to sell me a course on how to get on a stage. He, of course, is like, that's all BS. I hate all of that. Don't do that. Don't follow that. There's steps that you have to do, and those guys aren't the way to do it. And then in a podcast, he lays out, as a guy who's been on 3,500 stages and has traveled the world doing this internationally, he lays out exactly what you need to do. So Now I have no excuse because I know what it is to do, because the dude who's a pro, who gets paid big money, who is the coach to some of the biggest names in the world giving speeches, just told me what I need to do. So now you got to hold yourself accountable. There's no excuse. If we fail, it's because we failed. It wasn't because there was some unknown force being exerted against us that, kept the control with somebody else rather than with us.
Well, I was going to say, that's what made me think about it, Jerry, just the way you were describing it. I thought that was more understandable and something that could resonated with me, the way you were describing getting started on one with that other one. To your point exactly, if they can do it, you have no excuse besides just not trying. Because, you can deliver a better message, you could deliver more clarity, and even finish up in time, because that's one thing that struck me. They didn't have enough time to even talk to anybody. So it's almost like they were trying to catch people in the hallway, which is all the other, 30-minute things dumping into, trying to find anybody to do it. At least give yourself, even you would have been cognizant of your time to know that, hey, I got 5 minutes left. I'm going to wrap it up here. Any little Q&A to really find some interest. And I thought, as soon as we were rushing, they were finishing up. Hey, we got to go. So there were people outside. I thought, you just blew the whole thing.
Right.
But to your point, exactly.
And with a half an hour, why have two people? But the reality was there was nothing inspiring about him. So I would say to everybody from that perspective, you got to, it's all I can do to sit here and have these conversations about business and about the future and about, young guys having babies and getting married and finding success and doing all of those things without grabbing the mic on this camera and just shaking the hell out of it because I'm so animated. I'm so excited about doing it. That's the flip side of what we see so many people doing, either in podcasting or giving speeches or whatever it is. It's just like, you just Homer Simpson the thing and drool coming out of your mouth because it's so freaking boring and there's nothing exciting about it. There's none of those guys did I feel like they wanted to be there on the multiple ones that we listened to. It didn't seem like any of those people want to be there. I don't know. It just told me that if that's the barometer, if that's the level that it takes to get on that stage, but not just get on a stage, but to they're paying to get on stage. That's number one. So you get they can be crappy because they're paying to get on the stage, but they were selling things. We went to 2 of these things. They're paying $4,500 to get on that stage to sell what seemed to me to be a $1,000 product. So that means out of the 30 or 40 people that are in the room, they got to be selling 8 or 10 of those things just to make it worth it. And yet, they're at all of them. So if that's what it takes, I guess my point is to sell something like that, we got no excuse.
Yeah, it's a little bit of leverage of what are you selling that people actually want or need, specifically need. Right. And if you aren't compelling enough with whatever product you have or information or service you're providing, if it's not to the level of if you leave this room without this, you're going to have a harder time doing your day in, day out job. Whatever in life is going to be a struggle. This can make it easier. This can make it less painful with whatever product they're selling. If they're not doing that, then it's not going to convert. And right now, specifically in social media, there is so many people doing a podcast. There are so many people posting content. I don't know how many times I see something come across my feed, and it's not even stuff that people I follow, where it's just like, it's not that hard. You just got to post content. You just got to turn that button on and hit record and then hit post. I get from a basic level, if you have never used social media and you need to know where to start, that's good for that audience. But if that's what you're trying to sell is to that specific audience out of all the other audiences on the planet, that's great, but that's your audience that you're only selling to. If you wanted to tap into business owners, entrepreneurs, influencers, try to make a bigger impact, you're not risking anything for the reward that you're getting from that level of playing field. But if you're saying, I want to make millions a year, okay, well then you've got to, if this is your reward, value of what you're trying to build, and you're only risking down here, you ain't going to make it. Mm-hmm. That risk to reward ratio almost needs to be at the same playing field.
Yeah, you got to give 1,000,000% to get $1 million, more than everybody else gives. Right? That's
Yes.
exactly right.
And there's so many people out there that will understand that, but won't do it.
No.
And so what they're saying on a camera to say, hit record and post it, okay, that's a little bit of risk, but that's also just a little reward. But if you want a big reward, you want 1 million followers, well, if your content is just that, you're not going to get there. People are going to be like, no, this is phony. But if they listen to it and they have a value that they pull from it where they're like, wow, that was a good conversation. I need to save that. Or actually, I want to comment on this because that's a really good value or point that I've never thought about. That's when you're starting to, it's a little bit more riskier because, one, you have to develop that content. You have to say it in a certain way. You have to deliver it in a certain way. There's a higher risk of an actual good return, but you're actually going towards that ceiling of what the reward is of what you want, which is 1 million followers.
There's no guarantee you do all of those things and you're still not going to get it. There's no guarantee. I'm telling you, some of the podcasts that I have been on with people and some of the podcasts that I have, mostly the podcasts that I've had people come on, fantastic guests, just dropping absolute bombs that people who want to become an entrepreneur or people who want to move forward in life and find some success, it absolutely laid out what everyone should hear. Had I known the kind of advice that my guests are giving out on podcasts and then that I'm giving out on other podcasts and vice versa during conversations, if I had access to that stuff when I was 25 years old, I would have hit it early. I would have made a whole lot more money a whole lot faster because I had to learn on my own. But even so that's from my experience. I could listen to one. I could point you to any of half a dozen podcasts I've done in the last couple of months that are absolutely drawn out for you what you need to do if you want to go become an entrepreneur, say. So anyone could listen to those and they go, oh, I get it. But there's a couple. So having said that, and yet it gets very little traction. So even if I do say so myself, they're good podcasts because, again, I know how to build a business. I know how to start one. I know what it takes to do it. I know all of those things. Here's your roadmap. Even handing somebody the roadmap, you still have no guarantee it's going to happen. So you come back and you do it again. And you do it again, and you hear these stories about dudes that take 3, 4, 5 years of doing things before they get any traction. And you just got to be ready to grind like that. I think that's the one thing that Hormozi does so well is he talks about how difficult it is. There's nothing easy about it. It's difficult, and if it were easy, everybody would do it. We say that all the time. So I agree with that, Matt. That you've got to that even with all of that work and all of that effort, without the work and the effort, you're guaranteed to get nothing. With the work and effort, you're not guaranteed to get anything.
Yeah, the top producer at our company, that's what he does. You see the numbers, and you're like, God, how does that guy make so much money? Starts his appointments at 7 a.m., ends them at 11 p.m. Straight through, 7 days a week. I'm like, oh, that's how you do it. That's how you make that kind of money each month. You just got to put into work. And that's one thing about, things like that. It just, I told somebody today that was thinking about it and they wanted to think about it and they actually had a military background. And I was like, the execution will always beat the best laid plans because plans are just plans. Execution will always beat it. You just got to get out there and do it at a high level if you want that, because you're going to attract what you're putting out there.
Everybody has a plan until they get punched in the face, right?
Yeah. Yep. Exactly.
Right. I have something I have a topic I want to talk about because I got a text from one of my nephews about a business they're looking at, and since he hasn't talked at all during this podcast,
I don't know who.
And it is a business podcast. I thought that if he wants to, we could just hash that out and have the conversation right now.
Yeah, absolutely. So something that we talked about recently, me and Jerry have, is wanting to get into the entrepreneur world. At first was real estate. I was looking at real estate, buying another piece of property, but now it's more of like I want to own a business. Like I started working for other people, and I realized they miss like little things that I just picked up on just with like experience that I've had with other jobs. I just pick up and I'm like, oh, like just the other day, someone missed like a common sense thing. Like I'm just having a discussion with a guy and he's one of the leaderships at the job that I'm at right now. I'm just like, this is not even making sense. You know, the math ain't mathing. And I'm like, if I'm already thinking like this, like a couple steps ahead, I'm like, okay, am I able, and he's in that kind of role, making this kind of money, and I'm in just the most basic role that I can, then I'm like, okay, well, there's an opportunity there, you know, and I've learned it from, you know, with Jerry and my dad and, you know, my older siblings. It's built confidence over time. So getting into the business world is what I wanted to get into. And I sent him an offer about a laundromat, because I know we talked about, okay, car washes, laundromats, you know, it's not a lot of employees you got to have up front. Kind of get my feet wet in the water a little bit, and just like, you know, take a chance at it. My biggest thing is I don't want to look back on it. Like, the more people I listen to as they get older, I don't want to look back. What you said at a Thanksgiving dinner recently was, I don't want you, or you're going to be saying this 5 years from now. And I remember talking to my dad about it. I'm like, that stuck with me so hard, because me at my age right now, I don't want to, you know, marriage is coming around the corner, kids are coming around the corner, and it's just like, I'm going to keep saying this every damn year. And it's like, when is it going to be finally that time to go ahead and take that next step in my life? And right now I'm going through that transition where it seems really scary, because there's nothing set in stone what I'm doing, but I know each and every day I'm inching that much closer to that goal, what I want to do. So I had to step away from something that was super comfortable to me, making not that bad of money what I was doing back then, but in order to take that next step forward, I had to get back into almost being a little bit of a level down in order to realize, okay, I know I can progress forward, because now I feel that uncomfortableness. So now I got to drive even harder. So yeah, recently I sent him an offer, or I sent him the offer was on the table, you know, with a biz buy sell business, and it was a laundromat business, and it also it comes with the real estate property as well. The real estate, it says about $500,000 worth. The business is for $99,900, so $999,000. And one of the things you said was, you know, never just focus on the number. You know, don't focus on like how necessarily big the number is, because like there's a way to, and it's seller financing as well. That's another thing I've started to pick up on, is like with the seller financing, there's ways to actually get it done. It's like not the impossible, because for a long time before I even had the thoughts of this, just even a few years ago, I see a number like that and I'm like, yo, how in the world do these people buy that type of shit? Like, how in the world? There's no way, right? Like, you're just blessed with that kind of money just to offer, you know, or you just save up so much of your lifetime just to buy something. So it come with the seller financing. And, you know, for me, when I saw the real estate part of it too, I'm like, ooh, so now you have the asset of the real estate with the business as well. So that was one of the offers I just sent to him. So I wanted to hear on what you had, kind of like what your outlook was. I don't know if you had a chance to look over it, but what is kind of your perspective on it going into something like that, if that's a possibility of either me or someone else looking into getting into something like that?
Yeah, and I did look at it. And first I want to back up to something that you said that I want to warn everybody about. So I'm going to pick on you a little bit on this one, or I'm going to pick at this one a little bit, which is I have heard the same sort of approach to entrepreneurship many times over the last 15 years, which is I work at XYZ company. My boss or the owner is an idiot. I can do it so much better. I should be an entrepreneur. And that is not the way to come into this, because it's Monday morning quarterbacking at its best. If Brett Favre only listened to me, he would have been a much better quarterback than he was, right? It's that approach. I can make that game-winning shot. We should have ran the ball instead of thrown the ball. That coach is an idiot. I could do the job, which is all really easy to do from the comfort of our own couches. It's easy to critique the owner of a business when you don't have the responsibility at all for anything other than showing up and then leaving whenever you're done working, and whatever you do in between. The operations of being an entrepreneur, meaning running the business, right, whatever it is you have, is for the most part the easier part of the business. The tougher part of the business is the stuff you don't see, the risk that you have, the cash flow issues that there will be, the sacrifice that you have to give to make that thing happen. What have you given up? What's on the horizon? What's your plans? What's the impact on the family at home? All of those things are on the mind of an entrepreneur, of a business owner, all of the time. So to anyone that is a prospective entrepreneur or is an employee and you just want to move up in life, you want to get promoted, you want to stay an employee, but you want to do a better job in business. But this advice also goes to life. Always put yourself in somebody else's shoes. Never assume that you know what's best, because you are making that decision. How easy is it to throw a football when you don't have 300-pound linemen closing down on you? It's very easy. Now, doing that same, throw the football the same way, only this time you got dudes that want to take your heads off. It's a very different perspective. So it's easy to get caught up in the, I could do better, this guy's an idiot. And I hear that a lot over the last 10 to 15 years, not realizing that you're looking at a very small corner of the work and your Monday morning quarterbacking. That is not the reason why, nor is that justification for going and becoming an entrepreneur. In fact, the argument can be made that that is absolutely why you should not do that, because you're looking at it through a set of eyes that aren't showing you all of the issues and risks that go along with being an entrepreneur. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes total sense.
So having said that, along those lines, he's looking at a laundromat. Laundromats are great business. Here's the problem with laundromats and car washes and vending machines in particular. Here's the problem with all of those things. You can go on the internet and you can go to YouTube or TikTok. I see them all the time on TikTok. I'm sure they have them on Instagram. And you will see dudes opening up their machines and taking out giant stacks of cash. And Matt knows exactly what I'm talking about. I mean,
look at all this money I just printed.
Dude, they got to have 5-gallon buckets because they got to take out so many quarters. And they got to have their own counting machines. And oh man, it's just the greatest thing ever. And I can tell you that there's not a more difficult business than vending machines, as an example. It is capital intensive. It is time intensive because you got to have on the route. You got to constantly be looking at them. You got to take the money out of it regularly. You got to keep the stuff fresh. You got to just be selling what sells. You can't have the stuff sitting in there for very long, because if it goes bad, nobody's going to want it. If they buy one, they'll never buy one from you again. Then they complain to the place where you have your machine placed. So then the person who's doing you a favor, maybe they're making a few bucks because you're paying them to have your machine there, all of a sudden is getting bitched at for something he doesn't have any control over. Your machine. The risks go on, and what the internet does not do a very good job of is the risks and the downside. So I only concentrate on the downside. I don't worry about the upside. I worry about what can go wrong. I only worry about what I'm not good at, not what I am good at. I don't worry about what can make me money. I worry about what will take my money. And so in that context, you got to look at a laundromat. Any business that you're thinking about buying that has real estate is 1,000 times easier business to buy. So if you can find a business, in Jacob's case, I think he's looking for something like $400,000 for the business, and he's looking for $500,000 or $600,000 for the real estate. You're buying the same thing. So it's probably more difficult to buy a business that wants to sell itself for $300,000 or $400,000 with no real estate. That deal is harder to do than a $1 million business that has $600,000 worth of real estate. That deal is much easier to do. And that's because you've got a piece of a real asset. You've got a piece of land and a building and improvements that can be sold, and that your lender can look at and go, okay, I know in the future, given worst case scenario, I can sell that. It's also an easier loan to get if you're going to go with an SBA loan. So a bank loan is easier at $1 million with $600,000 worth of real estate. An SBA loan via a bank is even easier to get. Now, I'm using easy in terms of buying a business with just $300,000 in revenue, and buying a business with $300,000 that they want to sell it for, and buying a business with $700,000 worth of real estate for $1 million. That deal is easier. None of it is easy. It's just easier in that context. So I want to make sure I make that point. And so that's completely doable. But when it comes to laundromats, the same as car washes. How old is the equipment? What's the maintenance been like over the years? What is it going to cost to replace? for any kind of laundromat anymore, people expect card readers. They expect loyalty programs. The way to make money on these, because there's good competition, is that you have to have that card that people put money on, and then they use it up during the course of a
Prepaid.
month. You're given awards for that. That's a technology that costs money. Can the machines be retrofitted? Do I need all new machines? Am I going to go with these machines, understanding that they might break down? Because their lifetime is coming to an end. Okay, what kind of discount am I getting on that for taking on that risk? Meaning that the company may make $100,000 a year. You're getting a 3 to 5 time multiple for it. Let's go in the middle and say it's $300,000. So you're going to pay $300,000 for that business. Well, you need that business for the next 3 years to generate that $100,000. If the machines break down, not only do you not have the money coming from the machines, but then you also have to have the money to fix it. And if they're at the end of their life, it may look good on the front, but what's it going to look like 1, 2, 3 years down the road? So there is significant downside to buying a laundromat. It is not as easy as walking in every day and getting the money out of the machines like you see on the internet. There is expense and cost. Now, they can be very good. It can be an excellent investment. This one in particular has 2 good things that go for it, not knowing the answer to any of those questions, which would be all during the due diligence period, is that it has some sort of rental attached to the property, meaning that someone else is paying that property to be on that property. So I don't know if it's another storefront or what it is. So that's fantastic. That you really like. The banks like that, the SBA likes that, and you as a business owner like that. Makes the thing easier to buy. All of that is very good. So that would have to be evaluated first and foremost. Number 2 is location. Where is it, right? What's that look like? How confident are you that you can grow it? That's also very important. And number 3 is then what can you capitalize on it that the owner, in this case the owner was in Memphis and is sick and tired of driving over to deal with the thing. Okay, if he wants top dollar for it, it may not be such a good deal. But if you're getting a price where is reflective of the fact that he wants out of it, and it's probably been not taken care of properly, it probably doesn't have an internet process, it doesn't have a social media personality out there being built. It probably doesn't have folding services doing the laundry for people, which can be very profitable. Maybe it doesn't sell soap, other things like that. Maybe it doesn't have a vending machine in there. All of the things that you can add value that you can do post-purchase so that you buy down the loan that you got that much quicker, i.e. the thing makes $100,000, you're into it for $300,000. Every $100,000 you make each year, which is the total amount of money the thing's making, you're paying back the loan, and at the end of 3 years, then 4th year, you're making the $300,000. But if you make the thing make $150,000, now your payback is 2 years, right? And so year 3 now, you get to keep the $150,000 because you've paid it back. So how can you do that? So those, what opportunities do you have there in that business to do that? That's just a quick rundown on all of the things, good and bad, that you'll look at in a deal like that. Having said that, and you go, okay, well then Jerry, sounds like maybe laundromats are riskier than what I think they are. Everything is risky. I just want to point out that nothing is what you see on the internet. And this may be a fantastic deal. It may cash flow just fine. It may require, Jake, that you become the full-time employee. And I think it said it had 2 employees. Let's say he's spending $3,000, $4,000, maybe $3,000 a month on employees. Okay, fantastic. That's $36,000 that you get to get back because you're willing to go and do the work yourself, just as an example. I mean, there's a lot of things like that. But it is not for the faint of heart because it comes with a lot of risk, and it takes a ton of due diligence to look at that business and ascertain whether or not it is something that you want to take on. My guess is the equipment's going to be dated and that it's going to need a significant upgrade in order for it to be a long-term investment based on how much he wants for it. And the fact that he is in Memphis, so meaning the equipment's going to be run down, those sorts of things. But I don't know till you get in there and you check it out. So that's my 5, 6, 7 minute quick rundown off the top of my head after seeing your post and looking at the post that you sent me the link to, or seeing your text and looking at the post on what we need to look at for that business and I probably forgot half a dozen other things that I'll look at once we get there. But we got to look at the book, see what the cash flow is, how much cash, how much credit cards, how much he's paying for all of those things. There's a whole, what's the maintenance on the buildings? When's the last time the roof was put on? What's the foundation look like, right? What's the parking lot look like? It looks like a piece of crap, right? It's going to make it that much harder, Jake, for you to go invest in and bring people to it, because if they're going through potholes, you got to do that. So, okay, then that's more money out of my pocket for maintenance, on and on and on goes the list. But having said all that, dude, I think we should go look at it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think the real estate part of it too is what really got me more intrigued into it, because I know we briefly talked about how if you're going to find a business, try to get it with real estate, because real estate is so valuable. Like the business can be, I might be completely wrong, but like the business can be, not doing as great, but having that asset of real estate in today's world is super, super valuable. At least I see it with the property that I own right now. That's tested from you telling my brother and I to go buy a house 5 years ago when it was COVID.
Hey, Jerry, real quick, what is the value of, obviously you can own a business, but what is the value of having the real estate that the business is on? What does that bring to the table as far as make it more attractive?
Yeah, I think every business owner should be working towards owning the business. The emphasis of their business should be to make enough money to buy the building that they're in and with renters. So you should be working in the early years to get the thing to the point where you can buy a building. Don't pay rent. Pay rent to yourself. There's a myriad of tax benefits to doing that, but also you have the appreciation. So don't let a landlord take the appreciation. You get the appreciation on the building that you are in. You get the deductions tax-wise. There's a whole bunch of benefits to you doing that. So that's first and foremost. And not having to deal with a landlord is always preferable for me, particularly in a business setting. But the beautiful way to do it is you're going to use your own money you would spend anyway, but you can X up that money based on what property you can move into, depends on the business type, that might have renters. So let's say you need a 5,000 square foot building to run whatever business it is that you have. I'm going to tell you to go find a 15,000 square foot building. You're like, Jerry, I can't afford that. Well, of course you can, because if it's leased, the other 5,000 squares are leased, well, that's income to you right off the top that you get to use to go towards the purchase of that building. Many times what that'll mean is that you could buy a building that's 3 times bigger than you need, and it won't cost you any more than the rent you're paying now on the building that you're in. So that you get the appreciation on $1.5 million building, or however I'm making that number up, however big the building is, versus you buying a $500,000 building that just fits your company. And so it helps you not only grow your net worth via appreciation, but then also those rents are going to go up over time, while your mortgage is going to be fixed, is going to be a fixed rate and a fixed number. So there's a ton of value there. The land is going to appreciate also, right? So the building and the land that's in is going to appreciate over time. Again, it's not a short-term change. It's like, if you're going to pay rent, though, if you're going to risk and be an entrepreneur, let's take on a whole bunch more risk relative to real estate by leasing it out. Downside is you may not lease it out, right? It may not, somebody may leave and then you can't fill it, and you got to be willing to take that on. But everyone has to deal with that problem. And if you're an entrepreneur, that's just the name of the game. You make sure you run a good building, you make sure you're doing the maintenance on time, you make sure you're a good landlord, and you make it attractive to people so that they'll come in and they want to do that. So across the board, I think to grow your net worth as quickly as you can, being judged over years and decades, not months and years, that is the quintessential hack for how you should use your hard work building a business and growing a business to really have it make money, is to buy the real estate that you are working on top of.
Yeah, I would say, Jerry, that was a good point. I think earlier in your conversation with Jacob, you highlighted this fact of, I don't focus on the things I'm good at. I focus on the things that I'm bad at. I focus on not making money, or I don't focus on making money. I focus on what takes my money. And right now in culture, it's almost like the reverse 180 approach, where people say, Focus on what you're good at. Divvy out what you're bad at. Focus on what makes you money. Don't worry about the things that take your time. Get rid of those things that take your time that are not paying off. And I want to hear your take on that, because I know I've heard it personally, but for our audience, people that are listening, for that entrepreneur mindset, if they're starting out in running a business, or they are 5 years into the business and they haven't gotten to that next level that they want to, that next level incorporates the mindset that I believe you have. And so I just wanted to have you shed some more light on that, because you used it in the conversation with Jacob, but it was very in flight passing. And I want to kind of bring it back to it, because I think that's a part that really will hit home for a lot of people, or evaluate and open up their eyes to what actually they should be focusing on, rather than what social media is saying.
Yeah, social media, again, it's a trap, because it wants you to feel good about yourself. So, and it's always trying to sell you something. So they're gonna tell you that you can do these things in business that's just not practical. It's not reality. If you go back and listen to my last 3 or 4 podcasts that Matt, some of them are out, some of them aren't, that Matt is doing up, and Matt has had to listen to them. You're going to listen to dudes that are worth tens of millions and hundreds of millions of dollars that are going to tell you, these are operators, not influencers, not dudes online, not hundreds and hundreds of millionaires or billionaires, because those dudes are out of touch. And if you go listen to my last 4 or 5 podcasts, you're going to listen to multi-millionaires tell you that all them dudes are out of touch. So it's not just me saying it. It is people who are actually out here doing things and building things that are saying it. And that is that this thing is hard. It's difficult. It's brutal. And if someone's telling you that differently, they're lying to you. They're trying to sell you something, because doing anything in life is hard. Doing business is hard. And it takes a certain personality. It takes a certain ability to man up to be an entrepreneur, because all of the responsibility falls to you. And when the responsibility falls to you and there's nowhere else for it to go, that can be extremely, extremely overwhelming. And so most people want to point the other direction and blame other people for the things in their lives rather than take responsibility for them. That will get you killed in an entrepreneurial environment right away. So this world that says do what you love, and worry about your mental health, and men act like women and be feminized, and don't be aggressive, and don't go chase down the things that you want to do. That's all BS, bad advice that doesn't work and has never worked. It's been given out over the last 10 or 12 years, again, as the world has become softer and softer. But that just opens up opportunities to people who are willing to be honest with themselves about what they do not do well. So the key to being an entrepreneur is shutting up and listening, getting advice from people who have been where you want to be, and shutting up and listening. And so, like what we're doing with the Kronos Group, this is for $1 to $25 million businesses. The value of the Kronos Group and groups like it to anybody in business is the same kind of advice overall that people who want to do better in life should be listening to, should be looking out for. That is, people who have the experience that you do. The Kronos Group is a group we get together once a month, 8 to 10 guys, and you just hash out everything going on in your business. And the wisdom of the crowds is pulled into play, where you get to listen to feedback, go back and forth, and or participate in that feedback going back and forth. And you learn more than you could ever possibly imagine. I don't know how many times I went into these groups, and I didn't even have an issue, man. I was flying high. I mean, I'm going to these groups when I was making $250,000 a month, right? I mean, I'm crushing everybody in this group relative to the size and how profitable they were, only for me to, be sitting there all high and mighty and thinking all good about myself. And then I was like, wait, you say that again? What did you say? Because 2 dudes are talking, right? I'm like, wait, what was that? Now, thank God I was old enough to listen to that years ago. Years before I wouldn't do that, but I would literally go, and I saw it done many, many, many times, where I'd go, wait, tell me that again. They would tell me about a fire I had in my building that I didn't even know about, right? They would tell me a problem I had in my business that I didn't even realize was there. I go, wait, I have that, and I saw that when I walked out, and it sits right next to the door, and it's going to explode when? And why does it explode? And it's going to kill all my employees? And it's like, yeah, I just dealt with it, and I just had the lawsuits, and all the people died, and we couldn't run our business for 6 months, and I almost took me under, and I'm like, man, I get my phone out, and it's like, get rid of that thing next to the door.
Yep.
That's how it works. And so if you can go find somebody who can help you, but you have to shut up and listen. You got to pay attention, and you got to ask questions. But men are terrible at doing two things at the same time, asking questions and listening. They can do one. They can't do two. So if they're asking questions, they're waiting to ask the next question because they think they know what the answer is. And if they're listening, right, their mind is wandering on something else because they're not the ones that are talking. Men are terrible about this. And so if you figure that out, that all that advice is out there and you're willing to listen to it and ask questions. I said on the podcast last night to the young guy out of London, which really resonated with him, which is they're only stupid people don't ask stupid questions. So smart people ask stupid questions all of the time. So you got to be that guy that's going to go ask those stupid questions that a lot of dudes won't ask. I can be having a conversation with a group of 25-year-olds at the gym, right? And literally, the guys who have talked to me before will say, dude, ask your question. And the guy will be all shaping. He doesn't want it. It's like, ask it. Money will ask me the dumbest question in the world. And I will point out, dude, that's fantastically stupid. And I love that you asked that question because you can't build a foundation until you can't build a house until you know how to build a foundation. So understanding that thing that you don't understand that sounds so stupid to somebody like me maybe that has a bunch of experience is not stupid. It's the beginning. It's how you build it. So to answer your question directly, Matt, if you own a business, go to the Kronos Group and let's work together. If you're a starting out kid just graduating from college, find somebody that you can mentor or that will mentor you. You got questions about how to run a business? Go find a business owner. Everybody works for somebody. Go ask that owner questions. People who own businesses love to talk about their business. They love to give you advice. But that means you got to shut up and listen. And back, I'll pick on Jake again, back to the whole don't think you know more than they do. They're the one with the thing you want, right? Mm-hmm. It's like, oh, my boss sucks and the business sucks and I hate working there. I'm going to go start my own business, said the guy for 20 years while he's working for the dude, while he's commenting on the dude's business left and right. The dude who went and did the thing that the guy's not willing to go do. Right? See, our brains are backwards because we're coddled and the world is so soft and social media is pushing us that it's not our fault and safe spaces and all then we're trigger warnings and all the rest of this garbage. Y'all got to be freaking cavemen. You got to walk out of the cave. You got to leave your wife and kids behind you. You got to knock a pterodactyl over the head and you got to drag that son of a bitch back and feed those people. That's what being an entrepreneur is. So if that's you, in order to do that, someone has to teach you how to not get eaten by the animal in the trees or eaten by the snake in the grass. Someone's got to teach you how to knock that pterodactyl over the head, how to clean it, and how to cart it back conveniently and as easily as you can. Someone has to teach you to do that. If you don't listen, King Kong's eating you out of the cave. It's over, boys. You got no choice. But if you listen, you just might survive.
Yeah. That is a lot to it. And then to your point, Jerry, and I know this is something you really harp on, preach on, but in a good way, is how that seems like that's missing in a lot of the mentality, especially in the generation that's been brought up on social media, because of how it just changes it. You know, it's something we knew when we were younger just because that's all we knew and that's what people told us, but we didn't have that artificial influence. It was kind of hard to, BS about a situation that you're standing right in, but you can always put something up nowadays that they're not only have to really be in or dealing with and make it just seem like it is because they don't have to offer any proof or evidence for what they're saying.
Right. Yeah,
in the social media world, people live through their comments. They don't live through actual life. And so that dopamine hit of watching someone do something crazy that if in the back of your head, you're like, that would be cool for me to do, I'm vicariously starting to live through those people. Yes. Well, then now I'm starting to comment on their life, same way my internal thoughts would comment in my own head if I was doing the same thing. And so there's no filter now. which is great because you get to hear real thoughts, see real conversations, see real effort. But the flip side of that is you also see real nothingness, real brain rot, real like tearing people down because they have nothing better to do. And so there's this fine line of, I feel like for especially younger guys, and I like how you were referring to the guys that just got out of college and they're doing their podcast together. They're all buddy huddled in the cave right now. But someone has to walk out there and figure something out. And if they're all like, hey, I like it back here, that's just like how social media works. Well, I'm with the followers. I'm with everyone else, so I feel safe. But to put yourself out there and to actually try, and then not only try, but fail many times to get back up and fail again, but still keep pursuing, that's the entrepreneur mindset. Those are the people that are going to win long term. It's just a matter of, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when.
That's right. And I agree with that. You give yourself a better chance every time you fail. And the thing to remember about them dudes getting out of college, the thing to remember about you guys that are 25 years old, actually, Jake is probably a good example of this. Jake, you got that job working down on Broadway. You're making good money as a bouncer down there, working the door, working the building, all of that. From the day you took that job to today, what has changed in your life?
From when I let go of that job you were talking about?
Yeah, the job that you had down there and the 5 years that you were down there, legitimately, what's different from the day you walked in there to the day that you walked out of there?
Really, there's nothing different.
How many years?
Yeah, 5 years.
5 years. So there's 5 years gone, right? You got paid. You had a nice little job. But how did you improve yourself?
Yeah, not a lot of growth, really.
Right.
I mean, I peaked out of where I was at. Really, I ultimately just peaked out and I got comfortable. And I'm like, oh, I'm making this kind of money. And I'm like, I've never made this money kind of before in my life. So then it's just like years and years go on. And I told people over and over, like, oh, I'm going to quit this time. I'm going to quit. But then that comfortableness was like, oh, well, I'm going to make this money. I know what kind of money I'm about to make. So it just kept repetitive. And then you look back and you're like, holy shit, it's been 5 years though. Yeah. Like, where's the progression? There wasn't a next step forward of learning. Even if I had to take one step back, not even like a couple steps back, even one step back, I've already learned already of how hard I'm going to have to work in order to get to really where I want to be at. Because that wasn't what my whole life was trying to be, is be a bouncer on Broadway. Like, let's be realistic. At some point, you got to get away from that. The environment, you get married, you don't want to be in that. So that for me is just like, yeah, I look back on it and I'm just like, man, 5 years just because I was comfortable and just the money I was making, it was like that dopamine, like, oh yes, I got this money. But then I'm looking around and I see people coming in, and they're making fucking way more money. I'm like, what y'all do? Oh, we own businesses, or we sold our How old are you? Oh, okay. We need to. The whole little money thing I thought was good, just because in the perspective, like, that was the most money I've ever made in my life, to like, oh, there's like other levels to this shit, as some people say that motto. It's like I've seen other levels to this shit. So it's like, how do I become that? Not in a way that's like a scam wise, but like, how hard do I need to work? I'm willing to put in what it needs to take, because I see the progression that people can make in their life, and they're ordinary people.
I was just going to say that yesterday, I think it was yesterday, I was on that podcast again with a kid out of London, and they were graduated from college, and they were in some startups, and some of them were going to work in the financial district in London. Some had gotten jobs working in New York. But the kid asked me, look, they want, some of the guys want more than that. And I said, the problem is, I have a nephew that's making $190,000 a year out of college, working at a big firm on Wall Street. But you'll turn around. I literally yesterday on this podcast with this kid gave him this advice, which is, you will turn around 10 years from now, because the 190 will turn into 250, and 250 might turn into 350. Of course, 350 in New York's like 125,000 in the middle part of the country. Maybe you get that $25,000, $30,000, $50,000 bonus at the end of the year. You're doing pretty well at $400,000. Now, you told yourself going into it, I want to be a millionaire, right? But I'm not a millionaire. And 10 years went by. and you didn't ever do anything because you get comfortable. And the other thing too to listen to, and I'm kind of picking on you a little, Jake, but it's such a good example. I think this comes from love, is you did that job and you had your brother with you and you had your buddies around you. You'll never escape that. The person, the lowest common denominator among the people that you hang out with will not let you escape. So you can do better. You can make a little bit more. But the trajectory you want, you cannot have those anchors. And those people around you will hold you back. I don't know who they are in your life, Jake, or anybody else's life, but I'm telling you that not only did you stay in that bar, your brother was there in the bar with you, and y'all had all them buddies, and it's where you went, and it's who you communicated with. And pretty soon 5 years go by, and that big plan you had, it's never happened. Someday I'm going to. If not for, I will do. And if not for, never happens, right? That if not for, never changes, because that's the way it always is, because you're not making the change. And pretty soon, though, 5 years turns into 15 years. That's the problem. And then you've been working Broadway for 10 years. I'm going to start my own company. I'm going to start my own security firm. I'm going to start doing my own thing. Okay? Then another year goes by. Then another year goes by. Another year goes by. And pretty soon you're running out of years. You're like, man, I should have done it sooner. I'm not saying this is verbatim what Jake is doing. I'm saying this is what most people do. So that makes everybody average. Congratulations, everybody. You're average. And we all know that what I'm saying, if people are being honest, this is how people think. We all know people who think like this, and it's probably us. And the excuse that we don't, the flip side of social media is the excuse that we didn't know all these things like Steve and I have when we were kids, y'all don't have today, because all of the resources are out there right where you can see them, right? In particular for like you and Matt and my kids and Steve's kids, y'all have a resource with me and Steve that a lot of people don't have access to, that people would pay to have access to, right? So if you want to go do it, you got to stop talking about it, and you got to go do it. And if you don't have resources like me, go find them. They are out there. Or stop talking about it. And that's okay, too. There's nothing wrong with working on Broadway for your whole life. There's nothing wrong with that. That's honorable work. Any kind of work is honorable work. Full stop. So these guys that say don't do 9 to 5 and all that, they're all full of crap. It's BS. Most people are born to do 9 to 5. That's just what they're cut out to do. And trying to be an entrepreneur, say it's 1,000 times easier to be a number 2 than it is to be a number 1. So you want to go be a number 2 and make a whole bunch of money? Go do that. That's fantastic. But be honest with yourself about what it is that you want to do. It's just for me, again, I want to grab this freaking microphone and just start slamming some things around because I'm sweating. I want to get out of the cave, and I want to hit something over the head, and I want to bring it home triumphantly, and I want to show my wife, and I'm going to feed my kids, and while they're eating, I'm going to grab my wife's hair. Okay, wait.
Yeah. That's later on.
Dude, I got out of control a little bit. And that's going to be my purpose. And that's what life is about for me. And I'm going to rest, and I'm going to risk, and I'm going to sacrifice, and I'm going to try because I don't want to do the 9 to 5 thing. Now, my family, it may be twice as hard to feed them as it would otherwise in the early days, but the payoff is going to be huge. Without an investment and without risk, you're never going to get what you want. It will not happen. The internet is fake. Social media is fake in showing you that. They're always trying to sell you something when they tell you you can work 10 minutes and make $1 million. It's complete crap. It doesn't happen. I've never met a single person. I've never talked to somebody who's done it. Go back and listen to my last 100 podcasts. Everybody that I've ever interviewed, every business owner that I've ever talked to, they all say the same thing. I worked my ass off. I sacrificed it all. I lost everything twice. The third time was the charm. I've been bankrupt more times than I can count. And here I am at the end doing that. But the intestinal resolve it takes to be able to do that is uncommon for most people. We think the world is sports. We think if we yell and scream and act all aggressive and throw things around and get in the face of each other, we think that's what being an entrepreneur is. And the reality is sports is a lie. Sports only works inside of the sports bubble. I was telling this yesterday. It does not work in the real world, because who in the hell would work for an NFL football coach outside of the NFL? If you're a dishwasher at IHOP and dude comes at you like an NFL football
Full
coach
steam
does,
ahead.
would anybody work for this dude? Forget about there wouldn't be any customers out there because Mean Joe Green's just going at everybody and screaming and yelling and not giving anybody the time of day, right? Because he knows everything, right? It's not reality. It's not the real world. But we're brought up to think that that is the real world. So I would encourage everybody to hear what I'm saying, understand the gravity of what it takes, but get that if you are a competitor and you are a man and this is what you want to do, the payoff will be the greatest thing you will ever do short of having children, because the payoff is that you take those things and you feed the baby birds with it. And there ain't nothing, no matter money you'll ever make, will have more value than feeding the baby birds, in particular off of something you built.
Yeah.
So if you're an entrepreneur and you have that, you were talking about you'll always sink to the lowest level of everything that that you have in your group.
Yep.
What about the entrepreneur that has a business, he's working at it by himself, and all he has still around him in his network is basically his beer drinking buddies, to hang around? Where could he find somewhere where he could find like-minded individuals as far as to be around other people that think like he does or even higher than he does?
We just happen to have a place. Yes, that's 2 podcasts in a row. But legit, and we'll end on this. Legit, being an entrepreneur is the loneliest thing you'll ever do. So, Jake, when you start it, you're going to find a business and you're going to buy it, and I'm going to become your new best friend, right? Because you are going to be so worried, you're going to be so stressed, they're going to have 8 million questions with nobody that has the answer. You might say to yourself, I'm not going to call Uncle Jerry. I'm going to ask my buddy. Well, your buddy has no idea what's happening. He has no concept of it. I'm going to ask my family. If they haven't done a business before, they have no real concept about what's going on. I'm going to ask the other people around me in my community. They got no idea what it is, right? No one understands what it feels like to be an entrepreneur. You got to go where the entrepreneurs are. You want to learn how to be an entrepreneur, or you are one, but you're feeling isolated, you're feeling by yourself. Let's say you're doing wonderfully. Well, you could always do better, right? Let's say that you're hitting hard times and you want to do better, right? That you need advice for the same way. The guys doing well and the guys not doing well need the same advice. The most money I ever lost is when I was making $250,000 a month, because by my estimate, I was costing myself $70,000 a month because I thought I thought nothing that I could do was wrong. So I wasn't looking for it. So let me say that again. At my most successful, I cost myself the most money. How stupid is that? Right? It's ridiculous. But when we get up there, man, and I'm a kid, I got knifed when I was a kid, and blah, 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 and hookers and heroin addicts, and I'm making $250,000. Y'all can suck it, top of the world, driving my $200,000 sports car. Costing myself $70,000 a month for years because I was too ignorant about it, because I thought it didn't stink. And so the reality is that you want to be in a group, find or mentor, just like the Kronos Group that we happen to have. Now, my group, the Phoenix Group that I went to at the end, for 20 plus years, we're still together one time a year now, but every single month I got together with that group, and it absolutely, I would not be sitting here if it wasn't for that group, because I got in a group of men, the wisdom of the crowds, where everybody gets to talk about it like I described earlier, and all of a sudden you're hearing things and you're learning things that you would not otherwise. And then you get 1 hour a month with me, one-on-one, and we can go over everything. But it takes a certain kind of mindset. Imagine an hour with me, right? This is what, if you watch this podcast, this is what it's going to be like. But that's because this is what it takes. It's not touchy-feely. You don't want the guy trying to say, I'm sorry to hear this is happening to you. You don't want any lovey-dovey. You want, again, caveman with a giant club, and you're looking for something to hit over the head. That approach is the approach that all entrepreneurs should have, and the way they learn that is by getting to a group, getting to a mentor. And like ours, the Kronos Group, Kronos, kronosgroup.org. You go right there, look at the website. Matty crushed the website. It's in its 3rd iteration. He learned. It's okay. We all go through that. It's brutal.
Oh, yeah.
It's now fantastic. So y'all go to the website, check it out. All you got to do is click on the link right there. There's nothing to it. It doesn't cost anybody anything to schedule a phone call. You can get to me. Let's have a phone call. I'll talk to you. All you got to do is schedule it. And if it's not for you, great. But maybe something a piece of advice I might be able to give you, maybe a connection with me. Now we have a relationship. Maybe we strike up a friendship. Who knows what's going to happen in the long term? But there's always value that can come from having conversations. And most of us are scared of that because we don't want to have to learn something new. We don't want somebody to say, no, I did that. It never works. Turn left, don't turn right. How dumb is that? Pretty soon you cost yourself $70,000 a month and you're doing podcasts with your nephews, for the love of God.